I'll check and see if that volume's any good. That looks pretty good. Welcome, guys, to a new episode of Tim's 2 Cents, the weekly podcast. What we really meant to do here at Tim's 2 Cents is become a lifelong companion of all of our listeners and help them through all the different stages of their lives. Life? I'm not sure. Whether that's the birth of their child, graduating from college, or just finally getting out of bed in the morning and making yourself some kind of food so you don't die again. That we are always here for you, and we are always here to help push you into the next great experiment of your life. I don't know. I'm doing this podcast on a Tuesday morning. I'll probably send it to Daniel tonight or tomorrow. It's February 26th of 2019. We are almost 2 full months through into the new year. I don't know. What have you done this year so far? How has the year been so far? I mean, so far for me, it's definitely been a mix. There have been some pretty shitty things, but there's been a decent amount where I think I've kept on top of myself and, made sure that I didn't stray too far from, actually trying to get some stuff done. But yeah, I found this last night. Well, I didn't find it last night. I've been doing it as like a nightly thing, and then I finally looked back to see when I'd started, because I honestly at this point already forgotten, and I didn't think I had started this long ago, but it was this entire month that right before going to bed, I would write out like a plan for the next day, or not always even just a plan for the next day, just kind of like some thoughts, because one of my big issues is just laying in bed and just thinking, and I have trouble not doing that. Like, it's not that, I go to bed and I had something, like somebody text me right before and they're like, oh, your grandmother's sick and in the hospital. That actually probably wouldn't bother me, or it would bother me, but it wouldn't keep me from going to sleep any more than just a normal, I wonder what kind of cars they used in the 1920s, or I wonder what the brand name for cars was back then. It's never like a deep question. It's just a question. I'm like, well, if I had a computer in front of me, I could know the answer to this. Not that I would, if I had a computer in front of me, be thinking about this in general, because I'd be doing something more interesting. But now that I'm just laying here to sleep, I feel like I should just think about it for the next hour or so, and then get pissed off when I don't find myself asleep. But writing out the stuff, I've done like lists, I've done schedules sometimes, like I said, I've just written out thoughts. It seems to help me, not do that so much. I mean, last night I was going to sleep and I remember having the thought of like, oh no, my parents are getting older, because I thought something about me getting older. And then I was like, wait, but my parents are really old. And what happens whenever their hands start to hurt when they get up out of bed and they have arthritis and all. I'm like, oh, fuck. And then I was kind of saying, just stop thinking about this. You start doing this, then you're never going to sleep. And it actually worked a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I thought that was going to be a complete waste of time, me going, no, don't think about this, because many times in the past it hasn't been very helpful, and I've just continued thinking about it. But it seemed to work last night. I would kind of attribute that to writing the stuff out. It seems to help, get it. If anything, it just gets the thoughts out of my head so that I'm not just constantly remembering them, maybe because I'm worried about forgetting them. But if I write them down, then even if I have a new thought, then I've already written down enough, so I don't have to think about that stuff. So like if I'm actually worried, then the thought will just, like, I'm not going to lose the thought between going to bed and then waking up in the morning, because my head isn't already full of all this other shit that I've written down. So that seems to be helping so far. I think I did have another point to that where it does kind of just help you if you do like a schedule. I mean, you can do this in the morning too. That's the other thing I have been doing, and this hasn't been for as long. Like I said, I think, actually, I don't know if I did say I've kept whatever nightly journal writing, whatever it is, for a month now. I started it on January 30th. So, I mean, it's not a full month now, but it's getting close. But, so I've been doing that at night. And like, again, I said, it's, I believe, useful in the morning too. It can help you kind of like plan out your day and get you focused quicker. My big issue is just actually falling asleep at night, so that helps. But then in the mornings, I've been, just doing like a stationary bike, doing some kind of an exercise where I would always, especially in the notes, be like, yeah, get up, do some push-ups and wake up. And that does work. But sometimes whenever you get up, the first thing you want to do is not do 60 push-ups so then you can feel awake. Which if you do even like 40, you will feel you'll feel so much more awake. But I can count how many times where I'm like, okay, yep, get right out of bed, do push-ups. What I can do is kind of wander down into my basement where I have it's a bike, and then I got like an attachment for it that lets it be a stationary. I think there's some fluid inside the back thing, and you can set the resistance weight, and you can change the gears on the bike and do whatever you want with that. So I'll do that I don't normally do a time thing. I think it's around 10 to 15 minutes, but I just take my Kindle down and read and just try to... I'm reading less at night because I think that didn't help me go to sleep. If I would be reading stories while I was laying in bed trying to go to sleep, I think my mind would get almost woken up by the stuff. And then I wouldn't read a scary story or something like that and be like, oh no, what's that noise I'm hearing? I would read the scary story and be like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I'd be like, well, what are you scared of? And then I'd spend the next hour thinking about not making it and dying alone and not having enough money. And it's just like, this is not conducive to me waking up in the morning. So whatever. But so I've been reading in the morning. I like that it kind of wakes up my mind. I normally try to read. It's not a fiction stuff. It's normally some kind of nonfiction. I've been reading some older books. When I first got my Kindle, like at this point, 6 years ago, or more than that, 9 years ago. I'm trying to remember how old I was. Probably like 17 or something. I downloaded a bunch of the free books from the store, like called The Prince by Machiavelli, or Plato's Republic, or the other one. I mean, I have other free ones. There's I think it was free at least. It was like $1 because it was H.P. Lovecraft's kind of like anthology of books, which is so many thousands of pages. I've barely gotten through it. But I'd try to read something with nonfiction. I guess maybe if I ran out of stuff, I'd probably read like the Brothers Karamazov. Try to finish that off. I'm still at 99%. And that's probably going to be for the next couple months at least, because this epilogue doesn't seem like it's ending anytime soon. But just trying to read something that isn't complete, just entertainment and pleasure. Normally, like when I'm normally reading, I normally like something like horror or crime. But something that's not so like just dedicated to being cool or entertaining. Like I said, Brothers Karamazov, it's philosophical enough that I think, at least in certain parts, other parts are just like, oh, the poor people danced a lot. But certain parts of it are philosophical enough that I think it's worth reading in the morning. Same thing with some of the other things. Anything that you can read that's going to either challenge the way you're thinking or kind of just remind you of something that you already thought, or just get yourself into a headspace that's conducive for doing something that day. I mean, I'm a little bit different than probably most people listening to this, because I'm still just kind of working a part-time job from doing the landscaping in the summer, and I kind of have to find my own motivation for getting up in the morning. Like, no one's going to come and scream at me if I don't record another chapter in an audiobook, or no one's going to come and scream at me if I don't write however many words in a Word document that day. So I have to do probably different things than what most people do if they can kind of just go into the office and someone's like, hey, here, do this. I'm also just lazy, and I require it's not so much motivation as I require self-discipline or some kind of outside discipline, but I don't have that right now. So I need to kind of figure out how to discipline myself and keep myself consistent with stuff. But it seems to be working so far. Speaking on the writing, this has been a couple weeks, but I used to do where I was kind of just shooting for 1,500, 2,000 words a day, and then kind of realized that sometimes I was forcing kind of whatever words out. Like I'd kind of run out of story, and then was like, well, I'll just add in a little bit about something that he notices on the wall, and then kind of expound on that for another 400 words to maybe kind of knock out the limit for the day. And then other days I would get to 2,000 and I would still have some more to write, but then I'm like, nope, I'm done. I get to do whatever I want and go eat, get high, do whatever. And I'm trying now to be a little bit more, intuitive. I don't know if that makes sense as far as, I write until I don't really have much, I write until I don't feel good with the story anymore. I mean, that's, authors always talk, oh, you fall inside of the page and the page opens up and the world is there and it's blah, 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 blah. And it's, no, not really, but there is a sense of like, oh, this makes sense in the story. This follows from that. And I'm entertained with this. I'm interested in what I'm writing right now. It feels good. And then sometimes you can kind of just tell that you're just faking it. You're just like, well, then he walked through the door and then found the cupcakes and then he ate them. And sometimes especially in the novel type stuff, I've put that a little bit on the back burner just because again, I've run out of kind of like that flow for that thing for a while, and I went back to it a couple times and tried. And I've done this before. I mean, I've been trying to write that for about a year now. I think I started right at the beginning of the landscaping season when I wasn't really working. We were just doing some like advertising stuff, and I remember just starting on it, and I got like the first 3 chapters in a couple days, and then I was like, I don't know what to do with this. And so I let it sit pretty much for the entire landscaping season. I could only really I mostly just did like small parts or small pieces and then a lot of editing on a longer piece that I'd already finished, not a full novel, but actually editing and rewriting the story that I'm recording now on audio. I spent a lot of time doing that just because it's, when you're tired, it's a lot easier to kind of just do the editing and do the rewriting instead of like, well, I need to figure out what's going on here. I need to be a little bit more creative. If you already have kind of a framework, you can kind of just push through that, just drink a little more caffeine, just to keep yourself from wandering right away from the computer, and put some kind of music on that doesn't distract you too much. You can do that. But then I came back to it at the end of the season, and then, since then I've put on, I don't know how many other chapters. I haven't numbered them, but it's gone from probably, I think when I started it was 25 pages on a Google Docs. Now it's 187, which I guess is legitimate enough for me to have run out of ideas so far. So I'm kind of just doing smaller pieces outside of that, hoping to, kind of jumpstart some kind of an idea in that. I found that as well as I'll write a short piece, probably not finish it, but then I'll take sections from that I like and then put it into a longer piece or just another shorter piece, if it seems like it fits in with that. So I've been doing that a lot. That's pretty much all I do besides, going to the gym and then trying to not be a fat fuck at my house, because besides the, motivation for writing or recording or really accomplishing anything, I also don't have very much positive reinforcement for not just eating all the time. My roommate is doing the exact opposite of me, where he's trying to gain weight, whatever you think of as like the traditional bulk, like bulking season in the winter, and so he's eating pizzas, cookies with peanut butter. I mean, I slid back over the past couple of days and probably gained about 3 pounds in as many days by eating cookies and with peanut butter on them and chocolate wafers, which were amazing with peanut butter on them. But again, I need to stop doing that. But again, he's eating all kinds of shit, and it doesn't make it any easier for me when I go, I really would like a Supreme pizza from Domino's for $6. That sounds kind of nice. I don't want to have to make ground beef for the 700th time this week with some broccoli and a little bit of carrots. So, but I like it. Obviously, I mean, anybody listening to this who, if you heard me say that I didn't like not having to have somebody else scream at me and not having to work right now, you'd call me an idiot, and you'd be right. You'd also call me a liar, and you'd probably be right too. But, so yeah, I mean, I enjoy it. I like spending my time how I want to. I like, okay, it's 11 o'clock. Like, right now, I'm recording Tuesday morning. After this, my plan is it's 11 o'clock now. So I've already done the cardio stuff in the morning. I've taken a shower. I've read some more. And then I kind of clicked around on my computer for a little bit. So after this, and actually part of the reason I'm doing this now is because I live in a duplex, right outside of Pittsburgh. And it's an old enough house that I don't have, like an exhaust fan in my bathroom, in my shower, so I have to put an actual fan to blow stuff out the window. I need to wait for like 15 minutes so I don't have to leave a window open when it's now dropped back down to, like 20 degrees it was in the 50s all weekend, which was nice. And then Sunday night it started dropping again, and then Monday it was cold as shit. So I'm kind of waiting for the moisture to get out of the, shower. But after this, I'm going to go out to a, coffee shop, drink too much caffeine right there for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then come back and try to record some more of the story I was talking about. I'm on chapter 10 out of 14. That's I don't know what it is on Google Docs. I was using LibreOffice before, because I started using Google Docs when I would take my Chromebook to like a coffee shop. It's easier than lugging around this MSI thing, the gaming laptop that I record on. So I just use Google Docs on that instead of trying to download and install some kind of an office system on that, because I don't really know about the space. There's only really enough space for me to install Spotify, put on like a couple speech blocking or white noise tones. Because that's the one thing in a coffee shop is you can't really go there and write at least I can't with just music. I find it hard to concentrate to any kind of music that has words in it most of the time. And then even the instrumental stuff, it breaks. Like there's a break in between a guitar or a violin or a orchestral thing. Like there's pauses, and then the people's voices come in, and then you're like, well, why do I have to hear these fucking people? Why do they have to talk so goddamn loud? They come to this coffee shop and they do nothing but just babble at each other just like everybody else does. I'm trying to create art here. And then you completely get derailed from what you're writing, and then you have to somehow find your space again. So a good, like, there's a couple on Spotify, there's a couple on Bandcamp. You can just get like white noise, pink noise, brown noise of different, whether it's like a waterfall, rain, and then they also have a speech blocker, a setting or whatever that is for those noises, or a recording for those noises, which it's higher. And it doesn't, like the coffee shop I've been going to, it has like a metal vibe. It's not really exclusively death metal or black metal or prog metal or something like that. It's kind of just metally. There's the kind of generic pictures of Baphomet, whatever, the devil with the horns and the goat head. So there's music in the background. And what the speech blocking does is it kind of like, I can still hear the music, which isn't a problem. I can't hear the lyrics, which is good. And then I also can't hear the person babbling next to me about how The Dark Knight was actually a great piece of art and should always be remembered as the pinnacle of achievement for drama or something like that. Or I think the other time I was there, they were talking about making a documentary about undocumented kitchen workers, and they were making a point. They were like, oh, and you think they just come up and work in kitchens because that's what they do. And I'm like, well, I didn't think that. That sounds pretty racist, but whatever. Fat lady who says that she's not against Hispanics. She's like, what really happens is there's a whole system to bring them up here. I'm like, of course, what the fuck are you talking about? You think these people walk all the way up to Pittsburgh from the fucking border and they come in and they work at Anthony's Pizzeria because they're like, oh, yep, I can fucking throw chicken wings into an oven. That's great. No, of course, yeah, I've worked in a restaurant before. Everybody knows that the guys they don't have real IDs. They have fake names. And then there's houses that the kind of company kind of half subsidizes, but not really. And they stay there and then they work and then they're fine. It's not a human trafficking ordeal, at least up in Pittsburgh. I would be more worried about that down in the southern states if there's something like that. Cause you're not going to drag somebody against their will all the way the fuck through America to Pittsburgh and then be like, yeah, work in this kitchen where you could just run out at any point in time and run away. And we're going to come back and always enslave you every single time. But whatever. Like I said, the speech blocking thing, blocks out all that stuff pretty nicely. I think it's My Noise, the guy who does the recordings. He has a bunch of different recordings from, like walking in the forest tracks to, more like, what's the word? Not aesthetic, but, ethereal, there's like music for a certain theme or a certain like time that it's just supposed to be meant for like background music. I'm sure you know what I mean. The actual word for it is just kind of stuck in my head and I don't want to think about it and kind of break up whatever this ending is supposed to be. But check it. It's My Noise, just those two words. Like I said, he has a bunch of recordings like that. There's a bunch of other recordings on Spotify. And if you don't want to pay for stuff, you can always just go on YouTube. But Spotify, you can download it pretty easily, just right onto. And again, if it's Google Chrome, if you don't have much memory, it's not that big. I have plenty of them downloaded on there. But yeah, so I'm gonna get this finished up. I'm gonna go unplug my fan from the bathroom. I think it's probably dry enough. I'm gonna go start my car so it doesn't break down in the cold weather, and so I have a little bit of warmth as I go out there. But yeah, I'll talk to you guys next week. Hopefully I'm a well-published author by then, and hopefully I can just tell you all to go fuck yourselves and send me money for no reason. Also send me your wives. But anyway, have a good week, guys. Love you, and thanks for listening. Bye.